Hi to everyone watching and listening today. I'm Charlotte Maloney, Sustainability Product Manager here at BT Business, and I'm joined today by Angela from IDC.
Hello everyone, thank you for having me. Angela Salmeron, I am an IDC analyst.
So Angela, I know we've got some really interesting discussion points that we want to get stuck into today, all around how organisations can embed sustainability into their IT strategy. So we know a lot of audience members today will be CIOs or busy IT leaders who are not only under pressure to accelerate their digital growth and transformation, but they're also under pressure to act on sustainability. And so today, I know, Angela, you've got some insights that you'd like to share on this. And what we hope to do is provide some insights into how IT can be a critical enabler to decarbonisation and show audiences that it doesn't need to come at a cost to their business growth, to their profit, or to the environment. So, Angela, why should IT leaders prioritise sustainability, and what is making this such a pressing concern right now?
What we often see in our surveys, talking to many different clients, is that ESG sustainability is seen as a board issue, as a C-level issue, and IT leaders think somehow disconnected, and it shouldn't be. In actual fact, in some sectors, think about insurance, finance, legal, IT and IT infrastructure is actually a big chunk of the total carbon footprint. So IT departments need to be very aware that their IT infrastructure impacts the total carbon footprint. So for them, it's important to know that their procurement matters, the way they manage their IT infrastructure matters, because what you want to do is to prolong the life cycle of that IT infrastructure. And ultimately, when you think you're ready to dispose of that IT infrastructure, that disposal is done sustainably. So again, no, this is a call to all the IT leaders listening today that sustainability is relevant to them. And it's urgent for two reasons. One is compliance, right? Remember that you as an IT leader, you need to meet the targets that have been set by the board, by the C-suite. So compliance, alignment with those goals. And also, look at the macroeconomic environment we are. If you are sustainable, you're going to drive operational efficiencies, which are going to have an impact on your bottom line, Charlotte.
So on that note, what is it that makes sustainability and digital transformation such a balancing act for organizations?
So that's that's a difficult question to ask. In my opinion, sustainability and digital transformation, they need to go hand in hand. It shouldn't be one or the other. What is happening now is that, as we know, AI is obviously driving energy consumption quite fast in data centers. So the problem that a CIO is facing right now is that if they are investing in AI, if they are investing in innovation, this is going to obviously increase the carbon footprint, and it's going to obviously compromise the sustainability goals.
Thanks, Angela. I think we totally echo that. So we know that IT teams are under pressure to scale and build business growth for the future. But at the same time, that will come at a cost, potentially to their emissions impact if they don't sustainably scale now. We also see other pressures as well. So things like energy efficiency, the cost of energy has gone up over the past couple of years. So sustainability is also becoming an increasing lever for operational efficiencies and cost efficiencies for organizations. So with that in mind, Angela, how are you seeing net zero goals impact businesses today?
The way I say it is, so as I mentioned at the very beginning, Charlotte, you have at the very top, the C-level, the board level, setting those net zero targets. And then it's about how you execute that strategy, and it goes throughout the organization. So we are seeing those net zero goals implemented, at department level, whether it's across your buildings, your logistics, etc. But I think what is quite important is that you are not confined within the four walls of your operations. I think this is crucial. You need to be aware that you are sustainable as your value chain, as your suppliers, as your customers. And actually, that takes me to another point, if I may, that sustainability and net zero goals is not just for the large organizations, it's also for the SMBs. Because if you happen to be part of the value chain and one of the, your suppliers or customers primarily is sustainable, it's going to ask you as well to be sustainable. So again, sustainability has that ripple effect, and it's a game changer. I can tell in conversation with customers, they were telling me, look, I've been trading with this partner, with this customer for years, and now they're asking me these ESG targets, whether it's human rights or it's primarily, carbon targets. So again, the net zero goals have to be seen, obviously, within the four walls of your operation, but also across the value chain.
Totally agree with that. I think we know organisations are under pressure to reduce all scopes 1, 2 and 3. And we know that scope 3 emissions account for upwards of 70% of an organisation's footprint. So it's a really critical focus area for them. And that's something we've seen on the BT side ourselves, that customers are now asking sustainability requirements in contracts and RFPs. And as you said, everyone in the value chain will be impacted. It's not just the large corporates. Anyone in the value chain has to decarbonize.
Quite right. And also, just to say as well, and this is IDC data that came from January, February this year. A survey we ran to, I think it was 100, 200 CEOs across the world, in which ESG goals and ESG targets and being compliant with ESG was a top business priority, right? It's very much on the top of their agenda. And because of that, we are saying that it's a priority. They are prioritizing investments in sustainability, because they know that if they want to play the game, they want to have products that are sustainable and can sell to customers equally, they want to trade with their partners, with suppliers, they need to be sustainable themselves. So, Charlotte, my question to you is, are you seeing, when you're talking to customers, that prioritization around ESG is very much on the top level, at the C-suite level, at the board level, talking to your customers?
Yeah, it is something we see. And like I said before, we've seen that it's been embedded into all levels of an organization. So there's multiple stakeholders involved now. We'll see procurement teams with mandatory ESG weightings as part of their decision-making process. We'll see IT teams with circularity and energy targets in place. We'll see buildings and facility managers now involved as they look to adopt smart technologies. They need the IT infrastructure in place to help them deliver that. And we also see that regulatory pressure as well. So things like the UK Climate Disclosure Act, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, all of these mandatory shifts towards reporting now is putting pressure on organisations to increase the transparency. And that also comes with a challenge. We know that reporting and accounting is really difficult for organisations. So they turn to their suppliers and try and understand the footprint impact of the products and services that they procure. So yeah, 100%, Angela, we see very much the same challenges within BT.
The one difference we find now, as opposed to how things were in the past, is that whether the C-level and the board level, where this is in the past, they were primarily accountable for, to shareholders, to investors. Now we are seeing that they have to be, how can I say, accountable to a number of stakeholders, because these stakeholders are actually scrutinizing them. They are keeping a good eye and very close eye on them. I mentioned earlier, about if you are not, let's say, BT, you know that your partners, your customers are keeping a good eye on you and making sure, right, whether you are meeting your targets or not. So your business partners, again, you have to be accountable for them. And they're asking you, we are seeing that, and you mentioned that, Charlotte, earlier, in RFPs, purchasing orders, the ESG criteria is more and more in there. So yeah, you have to be accountable for business partners. Equally, not regulators. And you mentioned, Charlotte, earlier, a number of government policies, legal requirements. Europe, and that's also the UK as well, so European Union plus UK, we are ahead of the curve. If you compare the region as a total, compared with other regions in the world. Ahead of the curve is more heavily regulated. And as such, you as a company, you need to be accountable to regulators. You need to be, again, compliant to them. And then we have also NGOs and activists as well. And we know that they can influence public opinion. And then beyond that, which are actually very important, your employees. We know that agencies want to work for sustainable companies. Customers, equally, they want to buy ethical brands, etc. So again, I just want to emphasize that it's not just your shareholders and your investor that matters. You have a number of stakeholders watching you.
Totally agree, Angela. I think people are really invested now in working for organizations that are sustainable and purpose driven. So sustainability is not just good for the planet, it also is a massive talent retention and attraction tool that we see. Like you said, Gen Z want to work for an organization that prioritizes sustainability. So Angela, with all of this pressure and also good intentions behind sustainability in the leadership team, to what extent do you feel that organizations are putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to IT and sustainability?
That's a delicate question. So, well, I think we've seen that everywhere, right? One thing is making pledges and the other is making those pledges, bringing them into action. That's a different thing. What we are seeing from our surveys, and you might be surprised, even though we've said that is not a priority, at the C-level, etc. When you go down even to the IT department, 62% of IT department organizations are spending less than 10% of their IT budget in sustainable, let's say, IT infrastructure, less than 10%. You might be saying, whoa, right? I want to see the other side as well, right? 62%, but think that 38% of organizations, IT departments, dedicate more than 10%. So let's look half glass full as well. That's something that probably we need to be aware of. And yeah, it is true. But as I said, we see that across the board. Pledges sometimes are very difficult to put into action. Final point I want to make before I hand over to you. I think that the rhetoric has changed as well in the last few months or in the last year. Whereas post-pandemic, there was a big emphasis around sustainable IT infrastructure, sustainable whatever. Now we are looking more, what you mentioned earlier about the energy efficiencies. So maybe the same solution that was labeled last year as sustainable, this year is labeled as, it brings you energy efficiencies, whether it's resource optimization, etc. It's just looking at the same solution, but from different angles, but essentially is the same.
So Angela, what's the incentive to embark on that journey? As we said, it's so laden with obstacles.
Well, the incentive, I would say, follows a carrot and a stick approach. You are in that journey because actually you don't have, in many instances, you don't have any other choice. I mentioned if you are BT and your customer is asking you in RFPs or POs, BT, you need to tell me, what is your ESG data here and there. You need to be compliant, or at least to meet the requirements of your customers. I would say this is the stick. No, stick because you need to be compliant with your customers, with regulations, or even with industry standards. No other choice. But there are also incentives. There are many actually, because, and I want to emphasize this, sustainability is essentially doing more with less. So you need to be smart about how you run your IT operations. Essentially, you want to be more energy efficiency, you want to drive cost savings. And then if you're sustainable, think about, and this is not just the IT department, it's more generally across the organization, you're going to have a good corporate reputation, brand equity, and that speaks very loudly, speaks really well when you're in front of the stakeholders I mentioned earlier, whether it's your employees, or your customers, or even regulators. So think about carrot and stick, and as you are in that journey.
So, Angela, we've spoken a lot today about the different challenges that CIOs and IT teams are facing. So we've said that they need to accelerate their digital growth and transformation, but at the same time, they're under pressure to act on sustainability. So we know that they've got a tough challenge ahead, but we don't see that IT teams should see this as a competing challenge, but rather that IT plays a dual role in helping organizations operationalize sustainability. So we see sustainable IT. How can organizations reduce the impact of tech and AI as they accelerate and scale their digital growth? So we know that IT accounts for around 1 to 10% of an organization's footprint today, but there's concerns also that this will grow as they deploy AI, as they increase the number of devices being used. And we also see other contexts as well, so things like green electricity supply becoming increasingly limited. And then the second role IT teams play is, how do they use technology as an enabler to accelerate sustainability and decarbonisation? So we know that IT actually has the potential to deliver a 20% reduction in global carbon emissions by 2030. And organisations can use technology to support them with their wider operational and ESG targets. So if you look at the areas such as buildings or travel and transport or supply chain, IT plays a key role across all of these areas. And with this in mind, BT is developing solutions across our portfolio to support. And underneath all of this, they need low carbon network and connectivity to enable them to efficiently scale. So we have our low carbon networking proposition. I think this is a really great example of how across the life cycle, IT and procurement teams can work with suppliers to reduce their impact. So if I'm an IT decision maker and I'm working with my procurement team, I know I need to drive down the impact of my technology within my company. If we look at low carbon networking, we'll help IT teams measure, baseline, and understand the emissions impact of their networking devices. We'll do a device analysis and we'll help recommend low carbon devices that they can upgrade to that have a smaller carbon footprint, but are also more energy efficient as well. And we'll help them take back those devices. So we'll remove some of the barriers to circularity. Angela, you said the impact of IT is across the life cycle, including the hardware. So we'll make sure that all that kit is either reused, refurbished, or recycled. And we'll also help our organizations reconfigure their networks for optimal energy efficiency. That's really important for their Scope 2 reduction. And we'll give them the tools as well to help them measure, monitor, and baseline their emissions impact. So we have our digital carbon calculator and our carbon network dashboard, which enables them to optimize their networks and workloads. And that's how we've built our solution. But Angela, I'm keen to hear from your side. What are your thoughts in terms of a solution that's built around management and measurement of emissions?
I think it's everything. Well, at least it's a very, very good starting point. I think any IT department needs to have one. For the challenges I mentioned earlier, I know they want to know where they are, their baseline, and where they have to go. Our IDC surveys, what they are saying is that roughly 1 in 2 departments have some form of carbon management software. Sometimes it's tailored to them, sometimes off the shelf, but again, I think it's a great tool. And they're using the tool to, many of the points you've said, primarily because, again, they want to monitor the progress. Remember, baseline and targets, and you want to monitor really, the progress you are making in that journey. So again, monitoring, tracking, you want to manage both actually, and this is a good point, not just your energy consumption, but also the carbon footprint, which is associated with it. I can tell you, it comes in our surveys, that not every single tool that comes with the energy consumption has also the carbon footprint. So we need the two. So manage your carbon footprint. And then something which is ideal is that tool is helping you to evolve. Now, if we are investing, let's say, your BT in networking, how that tool is going to help you to redesign your network so that it's going to support your ICT strategy, your future ICT in investments. And just to finalize, that's saying that everyone knows you cannot manage what you cannot measure, right? So it's good to have that tool in place. Absolutely, Charlotte.
100% agree. And I think it's one of the more challenging areas when it comes to sustainability. Supply chain decarbonisation, Scope 3 is so heavily reliant on working with partners and suppliers that provide that level of carbon transparency. So Angela, I think that ties in really nicely just in terms of the importance of gaining visibility into the performance of your investments and how that ties into your procurement decision making. So as I said before, with low carbon networking, we'll do a device analysis. So we'll help our customers measure and baseline the impact of their current IT estate. And then what we can do is help them identify devices that are carbon intensive or more energy intensive and recommend alternatives. So what we'll enable them to do is measure, track and monitor emission changes over time. And that enables them to drive more sustainable decision making and bake that into their procurement processes. And like I said, another procurement decision is, what do you do with your end of life kit or hardware? So this is something that we know our customers consider, and we have our take back scheme in place with Cisco. So we'll enable them to collect, recover and retrieve all the devices, securely wipe it. As we said, we know security is quite a big barrier to circularity, and the resource burden as well of actually physically retrieving those devices. So that's something that we've embedded into our portfolio with partners like Cisco to help customers reduce impact.
Yeah, and how about Charlotte? Can I ask you about the smart and sustainable buildings?
Yeah, so we've spoken a lot about how IT and technology can be an enabler for sustainability. And I think smart sustainable buildings is a really great example of this. If we look at the challenges organisations face in decarbonisation, we know it's not just their IT. We know their buildings have an impact, their transport, their logistics. And not all organisations will be able to build brand new net zero compliant buildings and facilities. But what they can do is leverage their network and IT infrastructure to make their current buildings more smarter and more sustainable. And so I think this is a really great example of where IT can help accelerate the journey towards smart buildings and building decarbonisation. Devices become data sources.
It's about optimizing your resources, the best you can.
We've spoke a lot about ICT for sustainability, and we know that IT has the potential to deliver a 20% reduction in global carbon emissions by 2030 by using technology as an enabler. What do you see on your side in terms of organisations building this in?
Same here. We see in our surveys, companies are looking at solutions such as IoT, 5G, cloud edge computing being critical to achieve those ESG targets. I have to admit, this statistic is from months ago. A survey weeks ago was telling us that AI is, again, equally critical, right, to achieve those ESG targets. So again, it's always that combination of networking, cloud networking, AI together.
It seems almost simple talking about it here, but in reality, organisations will have a lot of questions on this journey, right?
Indeed. And those questions is, I was saying earlier about AI, and AI could be a double-edged sword. So the question is this AI solution truly sustainable? What is the net impact? Positive, negative? That's question number one. Question number two is, I've just purchased, this networking solution from a supplier. What is the carbon footprint? No, what is the total carbon footprint of this solution? The other is, can I really believe the claim from the supplier? They are saying it's a green solution. Can I really, believe it? And probably another one will be related to the, remember the carbon accounting tools. How can I monitor? How can I track the performance of my IT infrastructure? So yes, there are quite so many questions that IT departments are asking.
So we know that every organization is talking about AI. It's been a buzzword over the past couple of years. But if I'm an IT or procurement lead, how do I know that IT solutions are sustainable? And how do I know that I'm effectively monitoring the sustainability performance of my IT assets? So what sort of credentials should organizations be looking for with their vendors, and where do they get started on this journey?
And that goes, I think the bottom line is you need to choose so well, know your partners, your suppliers, and the saying, no, if you want to go far, go together. Sustainability cannot be done on your own. Someone said, no, it's systemic action. So yeah, it is. No, you need to bring everyone on your value chain on board. Everyone has to be aligned. And again, you need to be sure that you're partnering with the right IT service provider.
Totally agree. It's a journey that we all have to go on together, especially when it comes to supply chain decarbonisation. So, Angela, in the IDC info brief, you list 10 attributes of what makes a good IT partner for sustainability. So if you had to give our audience your top 3, what would they be?
Probably number 1 would be trust. In my opinion, if there is trust between you and your partners and your suppliers, I think anything great can grow out of it. It's like marriage. It could also be the other 2, I think, attributes you will look for in a partner, in a supplier, will be data transparency. And remember what I said earlier, that it's very difficult to get, in many instances, data from your supplier. So to have that transparency and being able to communicate that data periodically, I think it helps a lot. And then finally, right, so you want to be trustworthy, you want to be transparent with your value chain, but third, you need to be responsible, you need to be accountable, basically. Now, question to you, Charlotte. Of course, what would you say would be the key qualities that BT brings to the table?
Yeah, I think you've just called out some of the big challenges, and I think this is where BT really steps up, and we're leading the way with our customers in terms of reducing their impact. We've spoken a lot today about the importance of carbon transparency and what an obstacle that is for organisations to overcome. So at BT, we've got our digital carbon calculator tool. This allows our customers to view the estimated carbon footprint for their BT products and services and their IT emissions. So as we've said, we can help them baseline, measure, and understand the impact of their IT today. We've said you can't reduce what you can't measure, and so access to that data is critical. We've also spoke a lot about things like the deployment of AI and what the impact of that could be in terms of emissions impact. So as you said, the optimization of your networks is critical, especially as you look to scale your digital growth. So we have our carbon network dashboard, which enables real-time optimization insights into your network, power, energy monitoring. And that enables organizations to more efficiently optimize their network traffic, improve performance, and also gain carbon insights as well, so reducing the carbon and energy intensity of their network. So I think that aligns in terms of the transparency piece. And across our portfolio, we're focused on reducing impact, we're focused on energy efficiency. And here at BT, we've got that heritage. We are a leader in sustainability, we have the credentials, we publish our emissions impact. We have science-based targets. So we show to our suppliers that we are serious and committed to reducing our impact. We've set a target to be net zero for our customers by 2041. So our customers, as we decarbonise our operations, they will come on that journey with us. And in turn, BT will reduce our impact on customers. So Angela, I know we've covered a lot today. Feels like it's a massive topic that we've only really scratched the surface on. I think if you had to give us one golden takeaway from today, what would it be?
Number one will be for anyone listening to this webinar or reading the info brief, that marketing claims, a vendor can say, these are my solutions, but it's just a claim. I think what everyone should be asking their suppliers, vendors, is to really demonstrate those claims, with data. I think that would be number one. I am an analyst, so I am obviously a believer of data. And number two, which we have alluded many times, is that it was called sustainability a few months ago. Now it's called resource optimization, energy efficiencies, but it's the same thing. Sustainability ultimately is looking about doing more with less. That's my golden takeaway.
Great. So Angela, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a good discussion. I think we've really come away with some insights into how organisations can and should embed sustainability into their digital transformation. So we've published the IDC info brief, and there's some fantastic insights that you've shared with us today. If you want to find out more, then please visit and download the IDC info brief, or reach out to your BT account team who can get you started on your sustainability journey.